everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wise Women Contemplate Turbulent Times. And I'm here again with Juliet Yelverton, who is a trauma healing expert and founder of the Healing Waters Sanctuary in Glastonbury. And our special guests this week, our wise women, are Sandy Humby, who is the creator of Rose Alchemy. She's a Rose Alchemist, much more than that, but that's her main creation. And we also have Samjhana Moon, who is all about the sacred feminine. She is a photographer who takes wonderful photographs, portraits of women in their divine goddess element. And she's also the creator of Inner Seasons, helping women get in touch with their inner cycles in tune with Gaia. So welcome to you, Sandy and Samjhana.
Thank you.
Hi.
Rachel.
And Juliet, would you like, I'm over to you, would you like to set an intention for our session today?
Yes, indeed. And my intention today is I'm just aware of how much turmoil there is on the planet and how fearful people are and how confused, particularly in this moment. And so my intention is to be able to support myself and everyone here come into a much clearer alignment and anchor into your own truth, anchor into who you are, each one of you, because we all have a piece of this puzzle and each one of us is really, really important to show up and to be here. And if we can just anchor into your own self-knowledge, my own self-knowledge, and that's much safer than anything else. It's like if we can just ground into ourselves. So that's my intention, that my contribution here will enable or support that happening for you as well.
Thanks, Juliet. And just to say on that I've been reading all of the comments that everyone has made on all the episodes that we have broadcast so far. And we've had such amazing feedback and gratitude from so many people, particularly women, just to say thank you so much for giving us hope and optimism at a very dark time. So I feel really gratified by reading those comments, and we're kind of building up a bit of a fan base following. The other thing I'd like to say just right up front is I've had lots of people recommending wise women that we could feature on these episodes, far more than we could ever accommodate. And what I'm encouraging those women who've made those suggestions to do is to host their own wise women. This format of having 4 within Zoom is a very powerful format to have 4 wise women discussing. So why not host your own Wise Women Contemplate Turbulent Times, so that we can get thousands, maybe even millions of women worldwide gathering and sharing their wisdom to help others through as we find our way out of the labyrinth, back to the light, back home to the heart.
Yes, we can start a wise woman movement.
Absolutely.
And wise men as well. It's like we are men and women, and like we are not leaving out the men. They're very key to our...
Absolutely. And we will talk, we talked a bit before we started recording about Krishna consciousness, which I'd love to return to later in the discussion. But what I'd like to open with, because we're in the wake of the Samhain full moon, which was last Saturday afternoon, an extremely powerful full moon, which was conjunct Uranus in Taurus, opposite the sun in Scorpio. That happened at about 2:50 in UK time on Saturday afternoon. It was a super powerful weekend. So I'd love to just check in with everyone about, and as we have Samjhana Moon as well, that was a bit of a clue that we should open by talking about the power of that moon. So Sandy, would you just like to open and just share what's happening for you and what came up for you, particularly around that full moon?
Well, it's certainly, I mean, I could feel it cooking in the week before, and I'm sure that many were too, that there was a real sense that we were entering into a really significant portal of our experience. And of course, that moon came in on the back of Samhain and that sense of the veils being very thin. that there was the opportunity to perhaps transcend something within our own being, our own field, that was going to offer us an insight that was greater than we'd experienced before. And I find it fascinating that that came in on the front end of then the shift that we've experienced here in the UK of entering into this second lockdown process. So there was like a window of opportunity, of vision that came to us. And actually I have an essence that I was called to set in process over that period, over that 31st of October, 1st and 2nd of November. So it was cooking and imbibing in that time. And I've yet to be given the note that it needs to go out on, which is interesting. For me personally, I had a meeting with someone that I've only just had connection with, actually over that period of the full moon. So we met at 12 noon and we were together until about 4 in the afternoon. And I feel that was a significant coming together of this meeting with this other person. So it held a gift for us. This process held a gift for us in whatever way our I am presence or our divine essence needed to experience that window. Yeah.
Wonderful, Sandy. Samjhana.
Yes, so I've been going into that phase of the full moon. I was contributing to Embrace, which was an online summit all about menopause and midlife, and so that was very interesting alignment there, working with the ancestral realm, and so on the Friday I was in discussion about that. And we also just went into lockdown here in France where I live, and it's very strict here in France as well, the lockdown. And so there was this expansion and contraction going on in my world where I was feeling like my creativity was about to be squelched by this lockdown where we're not supposed to be outdoors for more than an hour, which for me is, that's hard. And on the full moon, I decided I would go to my land. We have some beautiful land here we're custodians of, where I practice these earth offerings, mandala creations for nature, and it felt very potent to be making this offering on this day at this moment. And it was like pouring rain and blowing a gale. I'm like, how am I going to make a mandala in this? But I was adamant that it was going to happen, and so I just pushed through it. And when I step on the land, I don't have a plan. I have some things that I bring, some beautiful offerings from nature, leaves and berries and things. And then I remembered I had these beautiful deer bones from a deer who had laid to rest on our land the previous winter. My first instinct was, oh, how sad, let me bury her, let's say a prayer. And then I thought, well, actually, no. Death is, her death is an offering to the other animals. It is here as nourishment for the other animals. So we left her. We did say a prayer for her, and just left her to be, to run that natural cycle. Which is what we often interfere with. We try to interfere with death. We try to interfere with what seems unsightly or difficult. We want to make it beautiful. We want to make it into something lovely, but we didn't. And the bones were, the meat of the deer was consumed over the course of the winter and the spring, and I kept her bones, and the insects cleaned them. And I thought, what a wonderful moment to incorporate those into an earth offering, is to offer that and bring that beauty of death into back into the cycle of life, and bring that beauty of her spirit. And it was very powerful. The mandala was made very quickly, and in the pouring rain, I was soaked right through to the skin, and it just felt very, it felt very raw and just very cleansing for me. It was a real. yeah, just really becoming more comfortable with death and with this, that it is a really important part of our journey. And that's where we find ourselves collectively right now, is in this, this death, this rebirth. It's out there for us all right now. It's happening, and it is scary, and it can be difficult. And birthing is a messy process. So for me, it was just very much finding my own comfort with that, and my place with that, and then sharing that. It's been phenomenal. We've had some incredible people just saying, really touched my heart. It's really connected with my, with a thank you. And, so it's really, it was a really powerful experience.
Wow. Thank you, Samjhana. Juliet, I know you did a live stream about the kind of corruption of the Samhain pagan festival by the whole Halloween trick-or-treaty, the commercialization of it almost.
Yes, that's what I was moved to do. I woke up that day and there was, as the same as Samjhana, huge amounts of gales and turbulence and darkness, and I felt very moved. I wasn't particularly tuning into the moon. I don't tend to think so much about life in that way, but I think I just moved through very intuitively. And I felt intuitively to make this video because I'm very concerned about the amount of ritual abuse and paedophilia and satanic abuse happening to people, to children. And I think that this theme, this is the dark underbelly of what's happening, and that in this movement towards the light, we need to address these issues. We need to bring it to consciousness and to hold it in the best way that we can, which is tremendously distressing. So it's about really owning our shadow, embracing the shadow, because this isn't just a recent thing. It's been going on for centuries and centuries and centuries on this planet, but more recently hijacked by the whole Halloween trick-or-treat kind of thing. So what we're seeing is that even very small children now are kind of having their minds taken over by this idea that it's okay. It's like an abuse of death, really, isn't it? It's instead of death being part of our natural cycle, it's a corruption, it's a hijacking. So it's very small children are now being indoctrinated into paedophilia and to child abuse and into satanic things and symbolism. When it's all through Disney, it's everywhere when you start to look. So to reclaim that, to reclaim our power to be with it and to speak out about it, to reclaim our power as women and human beings, is very important. And in order to reclaim our power, we have to stop being afraid, and we have to bring that which is dark and being pushed away in our unconscious, we have to bring it forward and begin to work with it and integrate it, because if not, we're always going to be split and disconnected, and when we're in that state, we don't have our full power. So we have to be able to hold the pain in the dark as well. And we can't all do that on our own. We're each doing each thing that you do, like Sandra, what you're doing, and what you're doing, Samjhana, what you're doing, Rachel, what millions and millions of people, billions of people across the planet, we're all doing a part. We don't have to do it alone. We're all doing a part to move towards the light. Much less of a burden when we know that we're all holding a part, and together we're creating this vessel, this collective vessel, for this collective healing of the shadow of humanity.
Yes. Just to share my experience of this weekend, I gathered as part of a group of 6. So we were fully COVID compliant in a mandala, a flower of life mandala, and did 2 nights of ceremony around a central fire on the land, in the teepee here on the land. And there was such a stunning connection with nature. One of the things that landed very powerfully with me through those 2 nights, and really being at one with the wind and the rain and the animals and the birds and the owls and the sheep. It's very rural here. Just how the system has taken us away from nature. We've lost our connection to nature. We've lost our natural sense of intuition. The system has broken our connection with Great Spirit, with nature, and how we've become tied into the non-organic world, computer screens, the kids, you know, all playing their computer screens, and not so much wanting to go out and walk in nature by the river. And that's one of the beautiful gifts of my dog, Kobe, because I've seen the transformation in my sons, because they love him so much, it's naturally taken them out. And I had a great teaching about my dog as well, in that we've been trying to humanize him. And I just really landed so clearly that he has been sent to help my sons and to me to reconnect to nature, because he is a tracker. He's so in tune, you know, in his ears. He's got giant French bulldog ears, which are like satellite dishes, listening for the sounds, smelling, tracking. Really, you can see him, and he's still young enough to be still in connection with nature. And I said to my sons, you know, we have to take him out a lot more and into so he doesn't lose his natural animal instincts and just become a sort of fat, mollycoddled dog, you know, like in the house all the time. So this was a really fascinating teaching about how we've lost our connection to nature and the restoration of that, how key that is to that natural harmonic resonance of nature in tune with the cycles, how important that is in this patriarchal system, which has made everything homogenized and standardized. So your energy has to be the same at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning when you go to work as it is on 5 p.m. on a Friday afternoon when the bell rings and you can knock off work. It's like this system of control is insane, and it's been a creeping thing over generations and generations, this patriarchal control system which is embedded through these programs. And that is what we are unscrewing, like very gently and subtly, just unscrewing the screws so they're all loosened, and then at some point, boom, the whole thing will collapse. That was my true sense from this weekend. That is the work that we are doing, because there is tremendous power in being in that central 0 point in the heart, in that point of nature, in total resonance and alignment with source. Tremendous power. Whatever intentions and prayers we put into that 0 point, is just the ripples of that could just go out across the planet. And that's why the system creates dissonance, because there's so much power in resonance. So anyway, that's my little, I could talk for hours and hours and hours.
Yes, absolutely. And I saw a lovely little video with a man that had this big metal plate, and then he put salt or sand or something all over it, just granules of something, and then just made a vibration with something on the metal plate. And then within a few seconds, it formed into the most incredible shape, incredible mandala, yes. And yes, that's a real example of resonance, and all we need to do, it's so powerful, Rachel, that the more we can just come into our own resonance and our own anchoring and alignment, that's immensely powerful.
Yes, resonance. God is love, and love is a perfect harmonic resonance. This is the essence of sacred geometry, which is an anagram for my God recreates. And the ancients knew this. Hence, the masons building houses like the one I'm in, which is built to perfect sacred geometry. It's a resonance chamber, and there's tremendous power in resonance chambers. So their amplification of that natural energy. And this is how the power has been locked down. This is why, I mean, we're recording this on the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November. Guy Fawkes wanted to blow up the Houses of Parliament, not kill the people necessarily, although it was his intention they would be in there, but he wanted to destroy the building because the buildings hold the power. And if you go to the Houses of Parliament and you look at the sacred geometry and the amount of power that is built into to that structure to lock down the power. And actually the Houses of Parliament were built on the temple to Apollo, the original Roman temple on the banks of the River Thames. So there are certain points in nature that have tremendous power, and that is why he wanted to blow up the Houses of Parliament, the structure itself, because it's not the people, it's the system. And this is the control system, and it was put in, I mean, I've really been downloading about this. It was put in place many centuries ago, probably by Henry VIII, when he took power back from the Catholic Church, and he used all of the sacred knowledge to lock down power for the monarchy. And so if you look at all of those, like Oxford, Cambridge, all of the public schools, they were all created in the monasteries of the time. So they created this control system, and they embedded it into the education system so that they could create a system that just kept creating leaders who would perpetuate the control system. It's very, very fascinating. Anyway, I could go down that rabbit hole. Let's come over to let's go around the group again. Sandy, what would you like to share just your feelings on what's unfolding, maybe about the presidential election as well? We haven't even begun to discuss that either. What's uppermost in your mind at the moment?
Well, I'd like to just go back to this piece about being in nature, because I'm based right in the middle of the New Forest. And what I have come to understand is that each and every one of us have been perfectly placed where we need to be to hold the best alignment within our own field, to be a radiating light in our particular piece. And there's no happenstance where we've been set and the path that we're taking at the moment, because we are all facets of the diamond. We're all facets of this evolving process, and each one of us has got unique gifts that we bring, and we've been polishing as we've done our inner work, particularly in these times, that we've been just drawn to do the pieces that are resonant for what we have come to hold. If we look at what's unfolding out externally, I mean, it's on the screen, it's just, there's a chaos and a discombobulation. And I think this is exactly what you're saying, Rachel, this is the pulling out of sacredness, if you like, of the sense of our humanity and our connection to the natural world. And what I'm seeing, whether it's being played out here or it's being played out in the States, very visibly it is the expansion of the more negative aspects of humanity, and what's needing to come into our collective consciousness. What's been hidden is having to be revealed. If there are more and more people that are being able to really embody their I am presence, that divine connection, this higher soul self, through the inner work, we bring more of our true self into embodiment, which naturally radiates out. If there is this uplifting that is going on a collective level, then what is being brought to the surface is anything that is not harmonic to that. And although it's seeming almost like the end times, it is the end times of the old, I feel. And there are more and more people awakening, because as we become more aligned in ourselves, we're more aligned and attuned to that which is not true. So our bullshit factors, if you like, are heightened in what we are seeing being revealed. And therefore there is that, hey, hang on a minute, wait a minute, awakening process that is in opportunity for all at this point. And so these times might seem very dark, but they are breaking away and breaking apart all that is not true and all that is not love.
Yes.
And it is the greatest point of our awakening time. And you know, if we go back to that window of Samhain and this full moon, my feeling is that that was another step point on that on that process of allowing a clearer vision to come forward and to activate the hearts of more and more of humanity so that we can rise together as one.
Yes, because we all have to do it together. No one is going to be left behind. No one.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
When the truth is revealed, all will be healed.
Yeah. Oh, shiver through.
Samjhana.
Yeah, absolutely echo. Yeah, Rachel, Sandy. Yeah, amazing, and very much resonant with that. You know, everything that rises passes away, and that's, you know, all of this darkness that is rising is doing so, as you were saying, Sandy. It's being witnessed. We're witnessing it. We're seeing the truth in it, so that it can be released. It can be healed. It can be freed. And I think that brings me a lot of peace when I see, you know, the dramas playing out in the world, when I see the challenges people are facing, is that, you know, it does have its purpose. And while it is difficult, you know, just like seeing that beautiful deer dead on my land, it's actually, okay, I can witness that, and I can choose to acknowledge it and to say a prayer for that, but not to engage in it, because actually my purpose is to hold the light, is to continue to be as resonant with what I would love to see, you know, come forward. The vision for the future is to stay aligned with that truth, is to stay aligned with, you know, with that sense of love and connection with something way bigger than our human existence, because we get so caught up in our human existence, the media and what we're seeing and what we're being told, and we forget that there's this amazing planet that's doing her work, who's going through her own cycle. She's going through her own seasons right now, and I believe that Mother Earth is going through a rebirth, and we are part of that. You know, we seem to think we're above, you know, all of this. You know, I'm not saying we, but, you know, there is this kind of assumption that humans are, you know, this great species, but actually, you know, we're just part of a massive tapestry. You know, there are thousands, millions of species of animals and insects, and, you know, feathered ones and winged ones and the finned ones, and we're all part of that community. And I think in remembering that, you know, it helps me to realize that things are playing out in the way that they need to play out in order for us to move forward. And so for me, coming back to nature, as we were saying, you know, being in nature brings us back to that resonance of pure love, of deep connection, and not feeling alone in this. So even if you are living alone, even if you don't have a great community around you, you know, there is always the community of nature. There is always a tree you can go and sit under and build a relationship with, you know, build a relationship with the house plant if you can't get out to a tree. You know, it's just have a relationship, or with a dog, like you were saying, Rachel, you know, nature. And, you know, there are ways that we can nurture the light in our lives, that we can nurture life, and that we can hold that light within us, to say that, you know, this will pass. You know, we will come through this winter and into a new spring and a new era, and it's what we've all been like championing, haven't we, Rachel, for years? It's like, bring it on, and it's here, and so many of us are resisting it right now, and we're saying, oh, this is too much, but it's actually like, this is the moment. Let's embrace it. Let's, you know, hold each other's hands, even if it is virtually, and, you know, enter this new era together, you know.
Yeah, and that's an interesting way to see the whole of the extreme weather on the planet, not so much as global warming, but as just a natural, as Gaia healing herself through fire, through wind, through water. So this is Gaia's natural process of healing and detoxing herself. That's my take on it.
Yeah, and also to have an immense amount of self-compassion, because we talk about how much we can witness and how much we can hold and be aligned, and there are just many times when we can't be aligned, we can't self-witness, we're really confused, and that we are all in this collective trauma, and it's very hard to see outside of this, because this is what we're born into, and so it's hard to differentiate what is true or what's not true. And this is particularly so when our own personal trauma patterns are triggered by what we're witnessing externally. So right at this moment, the very issues of, you raise the American election and the whole thing with Trump, Donald Trump and Biden, and that the amount of projections that have been put through the mainstream media onto Donald Trump that our collective trauma patterns can also link into. And given that personal abuse, sexual abuse and so on is a really major issue on this planet, it certainly happened to me in my life, and I think virtually every person that I know in some shape or form have been abused. And so it's very easy to project onto him that he's the abuser, especially when the mainstream media are also projecting that. And then when you begin to study and you start to see deeper, you go down the rabbit holes and things, and you begin to witness the whole movement that he's been doing to address paedophilia and human slavery, human trafficking and so on. And you see how much the paedophilia and the satanic abuse is underpinning everything. And then the whole thing about Biden and the Biden's laptop and what's been revealed on that, which the mainstream media are not bringing into public awareness, but it's very present on the alternative sources of information about the paedophilia and the satanic abuse and so on that he's been engaged in. So now it's like we don't know what to believe in, because there's, first of all, we have our own personal perceptual distortions where we're triggered in our own abuse patterns. And then we have the deliberate attention by the mainstream media and all the politicians and all the organizations that are all part of this thing, this issue. The amount of politicians that are currently being hijacked and blackmailed because of their because how they've been pulled into the whole paedophilia thing. And so it's very hard, very frightening and scary for people at this moment in time. And even if we think we know what's going on, often we wonder whether we really do, and then we feel really dark and bad and confused and go into our own patterns of huge amount of distress. So the only thing that we can come back to is the relationship with ourselves that we're building, a deep compassion, the need for deep compassion for self. And as we keep talking about, as you've said, Samjhana, and you, Sandra, the need for relationship with ourselves, with a house plant, with a tree, with the sacred geometry that we could create even within our own homes, even if it's like a little mandala or a little altar that we make for ourselves. Or, all these things are really, really important to keep anchoring back into, I am good enough, even if I'm feeling shit, even if I think I'm a bad person. Just come back with this self-love, this self-care, continually. Whatever you feel is going on, just come back to the self.
So it's an interesting one, this about what's appearing on the screen and how, and this is one of the deep teachings that has come through to me about whatever is on my screen that is most triggering me, that I feel most angry about, most upset about, most fearful about, whatever, is like a massive amplification of the blind spot within myself, of the little the piece that I haven't yet wanted to look at, or been too frightened to look at, or is too painful to look at, and that I've been dumbing down, and I haven't addressed. And so it's been appearing on the screen bigger and bigger and bigger and louder and uglier, until it's like, are you gonna listen? So this journey back to where the dissonance is within our own grid, and fully feeling that and fully being with that and not dumbing it down. And this is one of the interesting things for me, because to get to the place of this last weekend, I really had to get to a place of absolute purity. And I knew that I had to absolutely detox, because I had been resourcing myself just through dumbing down and just like, I mean, I don't drink wine anymore, but just having a glass of beer and just, comforting, like caffeine and a big latte. And so I just knew I had to just clear all of that out. And this house showed me, because the drains blocked, and the toxin of the drains was actually lifting up the lid. It was like, hello. And then when I saw it, I thought, I know that I can't ignore this anymore. And the man came and he cleared the drains, and it was the sign to clear me. And so I completely detoxed, and I'm still in that program of absolutely coming back to that super sparkling clarity, having released all those toxins, to be able to fully feel everything with so much clarity. It's like being the spider on the web, like where every little thing you can feel, every little fly that lands, every little piece of dissonance. Whoa. Okay, can I hold that? And like, where is that in me, that external? And so this inner healing, this inner process of trauma healing, this is every last piece of dissonance. If I can clear it in me, if we're a holographic fractal of the whole, if I can clear it all in me, or a small number of us, I think a critical mass, maybe it is 144,000, can get to that place of purity and healing, where we can be in that place of harmonic resonance, where we've cleared all the dissonance. We'll reach a critical mass which will shift everything. And so, because it's interesting, Juliet, and I'm going to be provocative with you here now, because you've mentioned child abuse, satanic child abuse, satanic child abuse, satanic child abuse several times in everything that you put out and in this call. And because I'm on some of your things, where is that in you that you haven't yet addressed?
I'm sure it's here somewhere, for certain.
Yes, and so this is the point, is to clear it out there. We don't fight it out there. It's like Ho'oponopono. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. All you children that had to be abused, please forgive me. Please forgive me for manifesting you. Thank you so much for showing me where this was in me. I love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That Ho'oponopono, because we are the manifestors of it all. And when we see that it's all a gift, it's all a gift to show us what we haven't dealt with inside. A big teaching this weekend was healing our inner masculine, because there were 5 women. We'd been 5, and then the 6th in our mandala was my son, who is the evolved masculine Krishna consciousness, Christ consciousness. And we sat around Grandfather Fire, the yang masculine, and I really got that we were being called to fall in love with the masculine again, having all had abusive partners and relationships and husbands and difficult relationships with money, which is the yang masculine. And so in that circle, it's like the Krishna consciousness, we all were held by the masculine energy, and we fell in love with the masculine again, and our inner masculine. And it was just such an exquisite healing. And the clue, we all drew a tarot card. All the tarot cards were male. So like the clues, you know, we were being called to heal that inner masculine relationship that had manifested in all of these difficult, abusive men and partners in our lives, and challenges and struggles, because we were called to do the inner healing of our inner masculine. Wow. And it only landed like 2 days afterwards, all the clues, just like, oh my God, that's what it was all about.
This is really important what you're sharing, Rachel, and I just want to also say that for men listening to this, is like we all have masculine and feminine within us, and we all have, and men are abused by women just as much as women. I mean, maybe as not as much, but it certainly is a big thing that men are abused by women. So it's about where that unhealed part is, that unhealed female part or that unhealed masculine part is within us.
Yes,
it's really important.
That's exactly what I'm saying, because we were 5 women.
Yeah.
All there in our divine feminine, with our, you know, all in our goddess power, but being called to look at the inner masculine, because that's what we were fighting on the outside. All of these men, and they'd done this to me in this sort of victim place. They were all our gifts.
So let's look for the men that are so good in our lives, and I'm certainly finding myself surrounded by a lot of really profoundly wonderful men.
Absolutely.
In all sorts of support roles for what I'm creating here at the Sanctuary. And, you know, maybe this is a role that Donald Trump is playing as well, the healed masculine, although he's being portrayed as the really abusive masculine. I'm just wondering, I'm just curious about that. I'm just putting it out because there is a very paternal energy there, a very holding energy of taking care of the world at this point in time.
But I would like to say something on this, and I promise I will come back to you, Sandy and Samjhana, because I'm conscious I'm hogging this call, but this feels very important. I was in Peru on the day that Donald Trump was elected back in November 2016, along with some Americans. We were a very small group, and we did an ayahuasca ceremony with a shaman who'd flown up from Iquitos in the jungle. And it was an incredibly powerful ceremony, and I was shown exactly why Donald Trump had been elected as president, because he is the archetypal unevolved masculine energy, which is all about winning, power, fame, and he had been elected as the archetypal unevolved masculine to open a portal for the evolved feminine to flood through. And we saw that in essence in Marianne Williamson to an extent. She couldn't hold that because it was too powerful. And she ran out of money and she got into huge debt and she had to pull back. But he has created an alchemy. His election has created an alchemy for the evolved feminine to come through a portal. He opened a portal in his election. And we had to see the face of what this patriarchal control system, winning, money, power, the face of that, what that looks like, taken to the most grotesque degree. That was my teaching on it. And I don't think that Donald Trump is the new Messiah in the sense he is the new Christ consciousness. I think he was elected to create contrast. And I think that this lockdown and coronavirus, COVID, it's all being done to create contrast. Do we want to be in that darkness and fear, or do we want to be in the light in connection with nature again, where we build our immune systems, where we don't have to rely on the World Health Organization and being injected with vaccinations for our health? Can we come back to natural health, to feminine health, to be back at one with nature, where we don't have to manifest dis-ease at all in anywhere? We look at all of these death statistics of the COVID. Everyone's looking, how many COVID deaths were there today? No one's saying, hold on, look at all those cancer deaths. Look at all those heart disease deaths. Look at all those disease deaths through mental illness and suicide. Oh my God, we are out of alignment. This is nothing to do with COVID. This is showing us that we are out of balance. So this is, to me, this is the gift in COVID. This is the gift in what is this darkness which is coming through right now. Sorry, sermon over.
Rant over.
I think we're, you know, I you know, it's great importance what you're saying, Rachel, and often we don't realise that we're out of balance until we have to stop. And I think that, you know, these lockdowns are actually providing us with that kind of, that pause of actually, okay, we're being forced to really, you know, pull back to whatever degree it is in our country. But it is giving us that forced pause in our lives to really stop and take a good look and see, you know, where are we out of balance? You know, where are we giving our power away? You know, where could we be empowering ourselves more by making better choices? You know, how are we soothing our pain? How are we soothing ourselves? You know, how are we currently, what are we reaching for? Are we reaching for the wine bottle? Are we reaching for the sugar? Are we reaching for, you know, for Netflix, whatever it is? And how can we, you know, are we okay with that? How we're soothing ourselves currently? Is that okay? Or is there a better way of soothing ourselves? Can we choose to sit on a mat for half an hour and meditate? Can we choose to actually go and sit under a tree instead of, you know, reaching for another glass of wine? You know, actually just go and choose something different. And I think that's, you know, that's the gift of this lockdown that we're in now, is that we're getting this moment to pause and really look at that. And something else that's really coming through when you're talking is, you know, we keep coming back to ritual, you know, how you know, working with these cycles of the moon and healing is very prevalent on the planet right now. But I think it's also important to remember that we need to give ourselves a break from that, is to not go, you know, it's great to be doing the healing work, but it's also good to realize that is just part of the cycle, and that's that's the kind of autumn winter part of the cycle, is that healing, that letting go, is that release, is then allowing ourselves to come through that and actually feel the transformation that's happened within us, to come back to this place of light, and to not feel that we have to be constantly healing ourselves, constantly doing the work, that actually it's okay just to switch off and take some time off and just say, I'm just going to go out and enjoy a beautiful day in nature today, or I'm just going to paint a picture, or I'm just going to have a beautiful bath with some rose petals in it, or whatever it is. It's just to actually come back to pleasure, and to that, so that we can come back into that place of alignment and love, and know that is also a very valid part of what's happening right now, is allowing ourselves to stay in that place of pleasure and connection and love, and self-love, and loving each other. So I think rituals are very powerful. And so working, for me, certainly working with the cycles, I work with the moon cycle, the menstrual cycle, and I find working with those, it gives me that invitation to say, this is the energy that's available right now, so let's go with that. So it gives me that opportunity to go round that cycle of healing, release, and rebirthing, and then coming back into spring and taking action and doing things in the world and celebrating and loving and enjoying, and then coming back to the healing again. So going through, like, having some form of ritual in your life, whether it's working with the new moon or the full moon or your menstrual cycle or the seasons of the year, I think bringing ritual back into our lives is a really powerful way for us to hold that light within us, and to restore our connection with nature, to restore that relationship with nature, is really, really important right now. And that's eating wild foods, and being aware of these cycles that are happening around us. Just saying, I see you, I'm aware of you, is sometimes enough, for us to start to realize that there are patterns and there are cycles, and that everything is rising and passing away in every moment.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Samjhana. Sandy, any last thoughts from you?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally resonate with what Samjhana's saying, and there is this feeling of sort of like a year being sort of the out breath of God, and this coming within is like the in breath. And this particular lockdown feels quite different. It's got a different frequency, different potentiality within it than we experienced on the first one. And it's interesting, that shift in the cycles of the seasons, as to how this offers us a different level of sacred homecoming. There is this place in which it gives so many people the opportunity to step off the wheel of their constant doing, and to providing, they're not looking for the next distraction or the next numb out. There is this possibility of reconnecting with themselves, getting up in the morning and being able to be self-referenced, not in a narcissistic way, but bringing a presence back into self, and to an awareness of our own energy as we move through a day, and what triggers. And as you were saying, Rachel, when there is that trigger, to give yourself that nanosecond, not to be in reaction, but to be able to perhaps just take a focus on the breath, and to be aware of that in breath and out breath, and that is that now moment that takes us out of that externalized distraction of, as you said, so how many COVID deaths, how many people have been tested, all of this outside scattering. But actually, if we can use our inner gifts and our inner focus, we can come through this period of time in a far greater alignment to ourselves and to our inner truth and our connection in humanity, our potential of what we can incubate within ourselves at this point as something that we can offer out as we start to open up into what will inevitably come from this contraction and expansion. We will move into a new experience once we move beyond this. And just also to finish, to say that my experience over that 31st of October, 1st of November, was the meeting of a healthy, emotionally eloquent, masculine energy, and like so many, having experienced so much dysfunction in my relationship with external masculine and my internal masculine. You know, how much am I being prepared to own that aspect of myself? And it was interesting to see that shift mirrored in an external connection.
Thank you, Sandy. Juliet, would you like to end the call with some of your beautiful wisdom?
Some of my beautiful wisdom. Well, first of all, my beautiful wisdom is that we all have beautiful wisdom, and that not to diminish yourself and think that we're the wise women and you're not. So, and that we can't always be doing healing or ritual or prayer or getting it right or being pure, and that sometimes when we completely mess it up, that's fine as well. Can we just be with our own selves with compassion, whatever's going on the deepest, gloomiest, worst day? And that, yes, although we're creating positive things about what's happening with the lockdown, just to say that I know that for millions of people it's a really frightening time, and that lockdown, it's hard to do these things that we're talking about as well, because lockdown triggers a feeling of deep fear, and it's like, what's going to happen to me, my job, my family, where will I earn an income? You know, this is a very, very real thing for millions of people on this planet at this point in time. So just to really deeply acknowledge that, and to take one day at a time. And with the whole American election thing, you know, your insight, Rachel, for me also, this feeling of being unprotected on this planet, I think this is such a big thing for all of us, feeling unprotected, alone, who is there truly to hold and support me. That's been a huge thing for me in my life. And very confusing around the election as well. But I did get this feeling just at the day of the election, the day before of the election, listening to Donald Trump on some of his rallies, of a deep settling within myself and anchoring in and a feeling of being held, which, you know, whatever the truth is about him or what's going on, that's what I came back to. And so my piece of wisdom is really anchor into your own body. What resonates to you? Where does it feel right? Where do you feel safe and secure within yourself? This is really fundamental. Where can you access this feeling of well-being in your body? No matter what's going on, whatever you think you should be doing, where and how can you access this feeling of safety and well-being?
Wonderful. So
just thank you everyone for being here and taking the time today, and please do share as widely as you can, and be kind, be really kind to yourselves, and be really kind to others around you, even when it feels like you're being rejected and hurt or not heard. At least don't do any harm. If you can just stay with that feeling of at least I won't do any harm, even if I can't feel good about what's just happened. So I think this is really important, non-violence and not doing harm. Being non-violence to yourself on all levels. Don't be violent to yourself. Do start your own wise woman group or wise men group, even if it's sitting around your kitchen table in whatever shape or form you can. We need to feel that connection with people that are close to us in some way or another. So lots of love to you all.
Lots of love. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Samjhana. Thank you, Juliet. Thank you for all your wisdom.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, apologies for that, Julia. I just like went off like a firework there, didn't I? Really?
So how was that for you, Rachel, to go off like a firework? What happened for you in that moment?
My little volcanic explosion. I'm learning to own my fire energy.
Well, Pele with you very strongly then in that moment.
What? Sorry?
Pele, Pele, the goddess of
The volcano.
yeah, volcano.
No, I don't know about her.
Yeah, she's a Hawaiian goddess of the volcanic Pele. Her name is P.
That's why the Pele report.
Yes, there you go.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realise that.
Yeah. It's Pele I think it is actually a volcano, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Hawaii.
It is on Hawaii.
On Hawaii. Yeah, goddess Pele.
Oh, wow.
She was there.
So it is very difficult things that we are being called to talk about, and we all have our own triggers, and we do get triggered. So that's how to hold that with whatever's coming up, and to move with grace through that, even when we just feel like
I wouldn't have called that a trigger. I would have said that was inspiration.